I think we'd all like to turn back the clock just a little bit. Maybe not all the way to high school, but certainly to the college days here at Stanford, that would be good. And people have been wanting to turn back the clock for centuries, right? So here's a painting from the 1500s, the Fountain of Youth. You're carting old women up in wagons. They hop into the water, they splash around, they come out the other side, and they're all rejuvenated as young nubile maidens, and they go into the tent. So I'm not going to claim that physical activity is the fountain of youth, but right now it's the closest thing that we have.
The first is regularity. Go to bed at the same time, wake up at the same time, no matter whether it's the weekday or the weekend. Regularity is king, and it will anchor your sleep and improve the quantity and the quality of that sleep. The second is keep it cool. Your body needs to drop its core temperature by about 2 to 3 degrees Fahrenheit to fall asleep and then to stay asleep. And it's the reason you will always find it easier to fall asleep in a room that's too cold than too hot, because too cold is taking you in the right temperature direction for good sleep. So aim for a bedroom temperature of around 67 or 68 degrees.
Let's say you're hungry and decide to eat a balanced meal. You do, and dopamine levels spike in the reward system hotspots. But if you eat that same dish many days in a row, dopamine levels will spike less and less, eventually leveling out. That's because when it comes to food, the brain evolved to pay special attention to new or different tastes. Why? 2 reasons. First, to detect food that's gone bad. And second, because the more variety we have in our diet, the more likely we are to get all the nutrients we need. To keep that variety up, we need to be able to recognize a new food, and more importantly, we need to want to keep eating new foods. And that's why the dopamine levels off when a food becomes boring.
So there's 3 things: how alert or sleepy you are, that's 1. How good or bad you feel, that's 2. And then whether or not most of your attention is directed outward or whether or not it's directed inward. And much of what we call emotions are made up by those 3 things.
Your genes are not your destiny, but they are your predisposition. Now we're delving a little further and looking at our actual genetics. What were we born with? What are the genes we were born with? What are the genes we want to turn off? What are the ones we want to turn on? How do we become a place where we know our kids are going to grow up and have an easier time knowing how to structure their lifestyle prescription to match longevity?